Almost 30% of registered nurses said in a recent survey that they were ready to give up bedside nursing for good. Are you a part of that 30%? Hey, it's Nicole here from Renursing EDU, where we help nurses make moves in their professional careers. Today, we're going to be talking about the mass exodus of nurses leaving the bedside and the reasons behind it, and why there will continue to be an exodus from the bedside unless workplaces do something about it. Not only workplaces, but the profession itself as well. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I give you a couple of tips. If you want to start your own business journey, to start your own business, I'll give you a couple of tips so you can do it while you're working. So that way it doesn't feel like it's so hard, and it'll give you more motivation to actually start your business when you're ready to go ahead and say bye-bye. So before we get started, leave me a comment below if you're actually considering leaving the bedside, leaving nursing to do something completely different. It's always interesting to hear what other nurses plan to do with their career, even if it is not in nursing. So I'm just curious. Leave me a comment below. A survey conducted by McKinsey & Company says about 30% of registered nurses are considering leaving the bedside for good. Poof. Gone, going into non-clinical work, or leaving the profession altogether. So why is this? You can say that maybe it's the pandemic. So at the time of the recording of this video, we've been in a pandemic for over 2 years, and nurses obviously were stressed out, overworked, underpaid, unappreciated during the pandemic. But that all happened before the pandemic as well. That's what the general public does not know. So us in the nursing profession and us as nurses who have been in for a while already knew that what was going on during the pandemic was something that always went on in nursing, and it was just magnified because there were so many patients coming in and the world was basically watching all the healthcare providers. So we always had issues with short staffing. We always had issues feeling like we weren't getting paid enough to do what we do. We always had issues with doing the best with what we had, so limited supplies. We've always been subjected to abuse from management, families, patients themselves, and even the physicians that we work with. This is nothing new under the sun. Experienced nurses who have been in the field for a while already know this. But the pandemic probably pushed a lot of nurses to their final edge. So here it is, over 2 years into the pandemic, and nurses are still leaving. Nurses are still tired. I, for one, am happy. I'm not happy about the pandemic, but I am happy that nurses are finally realizing that we have been undervalued, that we have been underpaid, that we have been overworked, and that our profession needs to make some changes in order for the future nurses that come in, and also to keep the more experienced nurses that are on their way out. So I have been in nursing for over 20 years at this point, and I feel like I have a wealth of knowledge that I could give to a newer nurse. There are a lot of nurses who have been in the field for a while that do have that knowledge that only you have from experience. If you push these older nurses out, you push these experienced nurses out, then what is the workforce going to look like? Is the workforce going to look like nurses who have less than 5 years of experience? Is that going to be the majority? If so, that's very scary. I hate to say it, but the profession needs to do something. Workplaces need to do something in order to preserve the nurses that are still there, that do still love the bedside and love what they do and wouldn't imagine for a million years that they would leave. They need to treat nurses better. So the pandemic has brought all this stuff out to light, that nurses aren't treated the best and that nurses do deserve more. And like I said, that's in terms of pay, that's in terms of respect, that's in terms of being able to go to the bathroom, that's in terms of being able to take a lunch on a regular basis. So the profession is going to continue to lose people unless they make some systemic changes, not only in the workplace itself, but this all starts in our education system. So when we're in school, we should be taught, we should know before we get out of school what the actual conditions of nursing are. So when I was in school, I was not privy to the information that I actually gained after I got out of school. I know there are some things you're never going to know until you actually get out of school and you get into the real world. But nurse bullying is real. Not being able to go to the bathroom all the time is real. Not being able to sit down and eat is real. Self-sacrifice is real in nursing. It's expected that you care for others more than you care for yourself, which unfortunately, I understand we take care of sick people, but unfortunately, if you can't take care of yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of anybody else. Okay, so, but it's something that's perpetuated in nursing that we have to give our all. We have to pour ourselves into our patients. We have to pour ourselves into our workplace. So we have that mandated overtime, or when they're asking us to stay over, we feel guilty and we feel like, oh yeah, I should do this. We have this subservient nature, unfortunately, within nursing. And I feel that that needs to be changed, and that needs to be nipped in the bud at the education level, not only in the workplace. So in the workplace, workplaces should be taking care of their nurses. Nurses are the backbone of any clinical facility. So that's hospitals, that's clinics, that's outpatient centers, anywhere that nurses work, we are the backbone, because if there were no nurses, nothing would get done. Millions of people would die. Millions of people would not be able to recover from whatever illness or injury they had. So we need to show the nurses respect by actually allowing nurses to take breaks, treating them like humans, not treating us like children. Nurses and management are notorious for treating nurses like children. There are a lot of things that need to change. So this article goes on to say that, nurses are leaving the bedside and that there's a projected shortage of about 450,000 nurses by 2025. You guys, that is only in a few more years. And they say if this shortage continues, then there's not going to be enough nurses coming in taking care of new patients. I completely understand that. But what they are leaving out those nurses that are LPNs. They are leaving out the nurses that are advanced practice nurses. They only did a subset with the survey of just registered nurses at the bedside. Nurses of all levels and all professions are considering leaving, or if they have not already left at this point, to do something completely different, simply because the way that we're treated. An article by CNN says this shortage could be addressed by bringing in more faculty members. So they're saying that we don't have a nursing faculty to actually educate the new nurses coming in. So therefore, they're actually turning new nurses away from admitting them to nursing school simply because they don't have anyone to teach them. So they go on to say that the salary for a faculty member is about $77,000 per year, whereas a nurse practitioner gets an approximate salary of $113,000 per year. So I believe that they're comparing apples to oranges because a faculty role is completely different than a clinical role, but it is true that nurses across all levels do need to be paid more, and that may address some of the shortage issues, but that still is not taking into consideration the experienced nurses who have been in the field 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That does nothing for those nurses coming in. So I believe it's a double-edged sword. They need to both focus on the newer nurses coming in, and they need to focus on the ones that they already have and treat the ones that have been there and know the ropes, treat them with respect and try to keep them, simply because we have that education and we have that know-how and that knowledge that you're not going to get being a nurse who has just graduated from school. Okay, so like I said earlier, I'm going to give you a couple things that you can do if you want to inch your way into entrepreneurship, if you are part of that 30% thinking about leaving the bedside or leaving the profession for good. So entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and I know it can be super scary, making your own schedule, figuring out how you're going to make your own money, where that money is going to come from, how are you going to support yourself. So there are a couple things that you can do while you're still working, so that way you can kind of see if this is something that you would like to do on a full-time basis. So one of the first things I would suggest if someone is crafty and someone likes making things is to set up an Etsy account. Setting up an Etsy account is really simple. My daughter and I just set up our account. We've already got about 30 items in the shop, and it's set it and forget it basically. It's just basically digital products. If you're crafty and you want to make something physical, you can do that as well. But I believe the easiest way, especially while you're still working, is to come up with some kind of digital product to sell. And if you're not familiar with what kind of digital products you can sell, refer back to my video on digital products with PLR, and that'll give you a lot of ideas of what you can actually sell. So if you're the type of person who actually likes doing things service-based and you want to dabble in something like copywriting or blog writing or maybe social media management, I would suggest setting up an account on Upwork. So that way you can set up a freelancer account and you can start using your credits that you get from Upwork to apply for positions. So basically when I say apply, that's people who are coming in that have different businesses and they're setting up little profiles saying that they need help with social media or they need someone to write a blog post or whatever it is. And so you would submit your offer, basically saying, hey, my name is Nicole, I've written a lot of books, I've written this, so let me write your blog for you. Obviously, it would be more eloquent than that, but you get the gist. So that way, if you get granted the job, you can go ahead and do the job. You can build up your resume that way. So I say resume, what I mean with that is your entrepreneur resume. And you can go ahead and get reviews. And if you like the work, eventually you can take yourself off of Upwork or off of Etsy if you're doing some type of product and then sell it on your own website. So this is just an easy way to inch your way into entrepreneurship if you are part of that 30% actually thinking about leaving the bedside or leaving the profession for good. Okay, so get started on this today by setting up your Etsy profile or your Upwork profile. And then, if it's for you, you can go into full-time entrepreneurship. And at worst, if anything, there's nothing you really lose. But at worst, you could make a couple $100 and just say, oh, it's not really for me. So that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. So if you did, please please subscribe to Renursing EDU, and I will see you on the next video.